Hi there, everyone. My name is Christian Eschbach, and welcome to another one of my album reviews where I look like a completely different person. Wow. Yeah, hair's still there. It's just back in a ponytail. It's being difficult this morning. Anyways, so going with a theme of in a completely different look and direction from the norm. Or, going also with I just covered Jack White's new album. Let's do another new album from another band. We are going to do Sonata Arctica Acoustic Adventures Volume 2. I've already covered Volume 1. I really enjoyed Volume 1. I thought it was pretty good. So here we are at Volume 2. Some of these songs I've actually already covered, and I distinctly remember covering already. Some of these songs, this was my first time hearing them. Do I enjoy this one more than the first one? No, I think I enjoy the first one a little bit more. But this is still a good listen. I still enjoy it. And I've really come to the conclusion that most of the time I generally prefer acoustic Sonata Arctica. Or these acoustic adventures, as they call them. Before I go any further into this, I want to start by mentioning that Acoustic Adventures is a bit of a misnomer. There are quite a few tracks on here. First off, it's electric organ minimum throughout almost the entire album. Few points where it goes to piano, but I'm going to say it was still probably an electric that they were using for it. The bass quite a few times goes into the electric range. And there's some times where it goes electric guitar, but it's just clean electric guitar, nothing else to it, or at least that's how it sounds. So it's safer to feel, instead of calling it Acoustic Adventures, to call it mellow. Mellowed out. Sonata Arctica mellowed out. Not relying on 16th note, well, probably actually 8th note, repetitive bass drum notes on the kick there, going for the whole entire song, just kind of annoying. It's how I feel about a lot of their songs most of the time. Alright, so let's get into the actual songs. Alright, we got I Have a Right. It's got really nice arrangements on it. Not a song I'm overly familiar with to begin with, but it's got nice arrangements on it. It's a great start to the album. It really kind of sets the perfect tone for what you can expect on this album. Whatever you hear in this song is pretty much what you can kind of expect to hear throughout the rest of the album. Not that it all sounds like this song, but there are quite a few where it does. It's kind of like a tried and true formula for doing an acoustic sort of thing. And going with that means the next track, Black Sheep, is literally that. It's just, to me, it was kind of more of the same of what the first track was. Half a Marathon Man. This one starts out pretty uplifting with a laid-back groove, moves on, I'm reading notes, sorry, moves on to electric bass, or at least, it could be an acoustic bass, but it's run through a pedal. It sounds probably like a overdrive. Possibly a light distortion unit, but it's just enough to get it a little crunchy, a little, that it's not an acoustic bass. But it goes in this great rock groove when it does that, and compared to the original version, I can't say, because I don't believe I've covered the original version yet. Broken. Alright, so this particular one is more of a ballad, because you've still got an electric bass, you've still got the organ in there, it just has acoustic guitars. Personally, myself, I'm not overly impressed with this song. I do know there's definitely people out there that would be impressed with this song. I'm not really into it. The multi-vocalist section, and I'm not talking about doing harmonies. I'm talking about, they're actually distinct multi-vocalist section in here where, you got different guys singing out different parts. it feels out of place in this song. The way that some of the vocals are sung or presented, it doesn't feel natural or right. Letter to Dana follows that up, and it's just, to me, it's a boring ballad, so I'm a nope on that one. Then we go into Full Moon. Now, I've covered Full Moon already. And I covered technically the edited version of Full Moon. This is clearly based off of the full-length version of it. And yes, out of everything in here, I actually went back and because I only covered the edited version, so I went back and I listened to the full version. And the overall, like, if we're going to compare the two, the original intro overall by far is the better version of the intro. But the piano on here, because once again, it's probably an electric piano. They may have used a real, actual, proper acoustic, but I couldn't quite tell you, to tell you the truth. But the piano on here, without the vocals, is beautiful. I'm not a fan of the vocals with the piano on here because it feels like the vocalist is struggling to keep up with the piano, and the timing's just off, and the vocalist is having a hard time trying to keep with it. It feels, or it's kind of rushing the vocals almost. It just doesn't feel quite right to me. However, both versions are pretty basic in the body of the song, but the acoustic wins for having more of an old European folk vibe. Full Moon was not a song I was overly impressed with when I talked about it last time. It's not a bad tune, it's just not a tune necessarily for me. And I can kind of understand why there is the edit version out there, just to make it a little less meh. That's followed up by Shamandali. Or maybe it's Shamandali. I'm not sure how they're saying this one. Very heavy organ driven song. And I mean, I love organ, especially rock organ. Oh my God, you can't beat a good organ in rock. And there is not enough church organ in rock anymore, man. Like, I mean, when you listen to some of the great songs out there, you know, it's so heavily church organ driven. So they really, they need to bring back church organ and rock. They really do. It's something that I think is really missing. And the vocals on this one are really pretty as well. Is it a great rock song? No. That was on a diatribe of my own there. I really enjoy the organ with the vocals. I think it sounds really good. It really works. And to me, it's one of the real standout kind of tracks on this album. That is one thing I can say overall is there's definitely a definitive. Well, some of the tracks, like, you know, I Have a Right and Black Sheep, you know, they're kind of basic. They kind of have the same vibe. Half a Marathon Man, Broken, Letter to Dana's boring. Full Moon, and Shamandali. There's all a different vibe in between all of them. So, you know, it's cool that way. San Sebastian, okay, I do not like this song on the irregular electric done version that they have. I've already covered it. I thought it was no. It is literally the everything that is such a horrible cliche about power metal. However, this version, the Acoustic Adventures version, I totally dig on this one. I think it's really cool. I think it's really much more enjoyable. I love the drums on this one. The drums actually have some room to breathe and play, and they do play. They get into there, get some little tom work going in on there. Really choice. Totally dig it and get in on it. And the best part is they got rid of that whole cliche double drum, bass drum, continuous. I'm a drummer and I hate that shit, man. You know, like, really, I do. I really honestly do. So to hear this version and to hear the drum work and the way the drummer's getting to play on this version really sets it off for me. And just in general, I like this so much better than the original version. Graven Image. It's nice, but it's under that typical, great when the album's playing, but when the album's not playing, just don't remember it or don't think of it. Flag in the Ground. This one... Okay, so this one is really kind of cool with the arrangements, and the music is really interesting. But it's kind of like Great Big Sea if they went prog. That's the best way I know how to put it, is Great Big Sea going prog. It's really enjoyable, and if you're into Great Big Sea, or if you're into the, either that kind of classic Canadiana, or you're into, European folksy stuff, but you also really kind of, dig Rush, Flag in the Ground would be kind of where I would go with that. Okay. My Land is up next. Went from sounding like a jacked up 80s. Okay, so if you listen to the original version, I covered the live version. I wasn't a fan of the live version. So I actually went and listened to the studio version, which I generally don't do when I'm going to do these. That's why there's some songs on here I have no comparison points for. But because I'd already covered this one, and I really wasn't a fan of the live version that I covered, I wanted to listen to the actual album version, proper version of it. And it really does have a jacked up Kenny Loggins kind of vibe to it, if you mixed it with power metal, like we're talking like, Highway Through the Danger Zone meets Final Countdown kind of thing. Okay. That kind of vibe to it. But this version still totally has that vibe to it, except for it's like the alternate version you hear in the credits at the end. They didn't want to pay for extra songs, so they just had the band completely recorded alternate version. That's how this version sounds. And I definitely will say that live version I've already covered doesn't do proper justice to either this version or that version of the song. There was definitely something missing from that live version I covered. But that's that. I think also that they reversed what should have been the last two songs. Because the last song on here is Victoria's Secret, which to me was just a poor choice for an album closer. It's kind of really dull and boring. I don't have a comparison for the original. I haven't listened to the original. But this version here, it is enjoyable, but as the album closer, no. It's, once again, it's a dull and boring album closer. I think My Land would have been a better album closer, as I said. It's a great alternate version for final credits of a movie or something like that, So I think they should have switched the two tracks around. The whole way around, I'm enjoying, as much as it seems like I kind of bag on Sonata Arctica a lot when I do these reviews. I am really enjoying my exploration of Sonata Arctica, and it's kind of fun going from acoustic to the electric to the acoustic to the, and kind of bouncing around with them. Covering brand new stuff and then yet still trying to work my way up through the back catalog. The whole way around, it's a fun experience. And this is why getting into bands and, getting to know their whole catalogs is kind of cool in their own way. Even if it is, like these are not albums I'd ever buy on my own. These are Tracy's. And, I get to explore this experience thanks to Tracy. And that's kind of one of the cool things of the old days of buying albums and buying, CDs and stuff like that. Or tape trading, like that's a lot of what me and my friends used to do. Sure, we had CDs, but we also all had cassette decks as well. So there was a lot of stuff that we'd go out and we would, one of us would have the CD and our friend would have the cassette. So we'd go and borrow the CD, dub it onto a cassette and listen to it that way. So, and I do that a lot because with my reviews, a lot of the CDs I've covered have actually been either Tracy's or they've been my buddy Drew's. Ghost in particular, the whole entire Ghost catalog I borrowed and did thanks to my friend Drew. And, Sonata Arctica is all thanks to Tracy. So it's really kind of fun to go through and do all this. And I recommend that, you know, people get back to this again. It's not the same when you're downloading stuff. Oh, I'm going to go download this entire catalog from these musicians. It's not the same. It really isn't the same as going and, you know, you borrow, like Iron Maiden. I did this with Iron Maiden as well. Between my buddy Drew and his brother Matt, I borrowed like all the Iron Maiden albums in the early days to get to know them. And it kind of directed which albums I bought over the years. And believe it or not, some of the first albums I bought from Iron Maiden were actually Blaze Bayley albums, because that was kind of when that was the time period that came out. It wasn't even the first one. It wasn't even X Factor. It was Virtual 11, sorry. Is kind of where I got on with buying Maiden albums, and then I just kind of continued there. And even then, I still haven't bought every Maiden album, because I've gone and listened to them, because my buddy Drew still has all the Maiden albums, and I've listened to his through the way, and while some of them are cool, you know, not every album I've picked up because I haven't had to, you know. Will I? Sure. But I think my buddy Drew's kind of leaned off on buying some of the new albums, and he's kind of waiting and listening to mine instead. It's hard to say. But where I'm going with this whole entire giant rambling is you should get friends that you can trade albums with. Explore new stuff. Get out there. Discover catalogs. Get to know these artists you never would have gotten to know otherwise. It's totally... It can be a fun exploration, even if, you know, some bands you go to listen to, it feels like you're pulling teeth. You know, if it feels like you're pulling teeth, it's clearly not the band for you. Anyways, everybody, thanks for watching. Leave me your comments. Let me know what you think. Yes, I will get around to definitely doing some more Sonata Arctica. Let me know what album you think I should do next, if I haven't covered it already. Like button, subscribe button, bell for notifications. There's a link to Patreon. Peace, love, take care.